thing we want to do, well, I'll do, so I don't like a minus sign, so I change that to a plus and that to a minus. Okay, now I'm going to factor. Well, that can factor, I know, to 2x minus 4. All right, so now let's find a lowest common denominator. Well, I know these are common. And that 2 just drops down because it's not. Okay, now let's look at this side right here. This is my common denominator, and it matches that, so I'm timesing that by 1, so I get 5. Over here, this 2 is missing, so I times that by 2, I get negative 6. Now collect the like terms, so negative 1, these are constants, over 2 x minus 4. And our non-permissible, x cannot equal 4. All right, so let's try the other one. So on this one, we have to do some factoring right here. That doesn't factor, so I'm not going to touch that. This doesn't factor, so I'm not going to touch that. This does factor. So we get c and a c, a 5 and a 3, and we have to get a minus, so it's a minus and a plus. All right, now let's find the lowest common denominator. You notice that they're all different. So now there's 3 parts to this one. There's c plus 1, c minus 5, c plus 3, they're all different. So they just form a common denominator. So now, let's look at this one right here, c plus 1. So I know these 2 parts are missing. So those 2 parts, which are right there, is that. So we can times this negative 1 by that c squared minus 2c minus 15 to create this right here. Okay, so when we go negative 1 times that, so we get negative c squared plus 2c plus 15. Okay, now let's look at the other side. So we have a c plus 5 and a c plus, or pardon me, c minus 5, c plus 3. So there they are. So this one's missing. So I times this one by c plus 1. All right, so we're just going to rainbow. So we get 3c squared, rainbow, 3c, 1c, and 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, now it's time to collect like terms. So on the top, what do we have? We have this term and this term, so we have 2c squares. We have this term and this term and this term, so that adds up to 6 c's. So cross them out just so we don't make things confusing. And this is 16. All right. Let's do our non-permissibles. So c cannot equal negative 1, 5, and negative 3. Now, I can see that this can factor, this top can factor. So let's check it out. So 2 is common. All over our common denominator. Now, can this factor again? Well, you look at that, 2 numbers that multiply to 8 and add to 3, there is none. So this is my answer. Or You can leave it like that. Doesn't really matter. Either one is right. Now we're going to move on to equations. Now equations have the equal sign involved. The expression is there is no equal sign. So now we are going to try and make the left side equal the right side. And if we do that, we know we have a solution. Okay, so let's get rid of fractions. All right, so we want to get rid of fractions when we want to solve equations. So it's similar to finding the lowest common denominator we did earlier, but now we're going to cancel out the fractions. So in this case, we are going to look at the bottoms. Okay, so what does that factor to? It's a plus 2, a minus 2, all over 2, okay? And the next one, what does that simplify to? Well, a 6 is common, so it's a plus 2. And that we don't have to worry about. Okay, so we've done our factoring. So it's good at this point because we have the word non-permissibles. Let's just do those non-permissibles before we go too far and we lose it. So we have plus 2, a minus 2, and a plus 2. So we say a cannot equal 2 and negative 2. All right, now once you get down to this stage right here, we're solving for a, we're trying to get a equals. So we want to multiply everything by a common denominator, our lowest common denominator. So let's look for our lowest common denominator. So we know we have an a plus 2 right here. We have an a minus 2, and we have a 6. So there is our lowest common denominator. So now what you do is you're going to multiply each of these terms by that lowest common denominator. So it takes a little bit of work, but it's, you know, it's good to write it in because it's easy to make mistakes. So I'm going to put up here a plus 2, a minus 2 and 6, a plus 2, a minus 2 and 6, a plus 2, a minus 2 and 6. Now why I'm doing that? Because now I want to get rid of the fractions. So watch this. This a plus 2 and this a plus 2 eliminate each other. This eliminates that. So I'm left with this 6 times that 2. So we get 12. All right? So on the other side, this 6 takes that 6 out, that takes that out. So I'm left with this 10 and this a minus 2. So the 10 and a minus 2. We'll times it later. Now over here, I have this and this cancel each other. So now I have this 1 times a 6 and then times that. Okay, see now this expression, or this equation, there's no fractions. So now let's just get rid of the brackets. So let's rainbow that in. So that's 10a minus 20, rainbow that in, 6a plus 12. Okay, now let's just algebra time. So I'm going to bring this that way, and that makes it 4a equals these two, this one and this one are coming across. Well, let's just collect like terms. 12 subtract 20 is negative 8, so this becomes positive 8 on that side. So those now are gone, and 12 plus 8 is 20. Divide by 4, divide by 4, so a equals 5. All right, so we got our answer of 5. Well, is that a true answer? Well, we don't know until we put it in and see if it is. So I'm just going to extend the page here and let's see. All right, so we have 2, remember, there's our solution right there, a equals 5. So we put the 5 into the a spot, plus 10, and we get 6 times 5 plus 12. Okay, so we know this is going to be 2 over 25, because 5 squared is 25. 25 take away, that is 21, plus 10 over 6 times 5 is 30. 30 plus that is 42. And now we have to create a like terms, or common denominator, pardon me. So we times that by 2 times that by 2. So we get 4 plus 10. So that equals 14 over 42. Okay? Now, let's look at the other side, because the other side has to equal as well. So we have 1 over 5 minus 2. And 5 minus 2 is a third. So 5 minus 2 is 3. So, do we know? Yes, this simplifies to 1/3. All right, so do they equal each other? They do. So that's just checking to see if a equals 5. Is 5 really a solution? In this case, it balanced out, so this is the solution. So in your answer box on the test, there'll be an answer box. You say a equals 5. Okay? All right, so now we have one that we just did, so let's just go through it. It's very much the same as we just did. All right, so we take this and factor it. So there are factors. We take this term and factor it to there. And then this cannot factor. So now we're looking for the lowest common denominator. So we have an a minus 2 that's common, an a plus 2 that's common, and then that's 6. Okay, so there's our lowest common denominator. So now we're going to multiply. All right, so multiply each of these terms. So don't miss this step. This is a very, very valuable step by writing that lowest common denominator in each of those spots. And then we're timesing this whole thing. Then it's cancellation out time. So that cancels that, that cancels that. Okay, this 6 cancels that, that cancels that, and this cancels that. Okay, you have to have your whole denominator wiped out. If you don't, you probably did not factor right for your common denominator. So now it's time to multiply. So this 6 times that 2 to get 12. This 10 times that a minus 2, because that was left, and that gets you that, 10a minus 20. And this 1 times that 6, and then you have a plus 2, that gets you those 2. Okay, then it's just algebra time. Move that over, move those over, and we get 5. Okay, and we checked 5, and 5 did work. All right, so you can see that is a solution.